So, one of the less focused on areas of Russia's economy, and one of the reasons it seems to be weathering the sanctions, is their shadow economy. Now, this is the economy that is not technically on the books to avoid sanctions or due to criminal activity and other under the table deals made by both private and government entities. It is estimated that this shadow economy makes up about 20 to 30% of unreported Russian GDP, totaling $350 billion. This is a doubling in the size of Russia's previous shadow economy from around 178 billion before the war started. Now, the bottom line is that size of a jump doesn't happen due to a massive increase in organized crime or illegal food trucks. This is the Russian government driving the move towards the shadow economy. But this is a double-edged sword. The shadow economy involves transactions that are not reported to the government, leading to a significant loss of potential tax revenue. This can limit the government's ability to fund public services and infrastructure, or say a war, which means they must levy higher taxes against their legitimate entities. See my previous video about Russia raising taxes despite Putin saying he wouldn't just a few months ago. Now, Russia's GDP exceeds $2 trillion when you account for both the shadow economy and their legitimate economy. But there is still a massive $50 billion budget deficit in Russia. Now, before you scoff at Russia's shadow economy, it's worth noting that every country has one. For comparison, the US has an unreported shadow economy, which is roughly 7 to 10% of the US GDP. So whereas Russia's shadow economy is around $350 billion, the US shadow economy, despite being a much smaller percentage, dwarfs Russia's at $2 trillion. So that means the US shadow economy is the same size as Russia's entire economy. But make no mistake, illicit activity that drives even the shadow economy will take a hit as Russia's broader economy falters due to decisions surrounding this war. And then one final note, the largest shadow economy in the world is China's. It sits at roughly $3 trillion, or about 20% of its legitimate GDP, which is about $18 trillion. The difference here is that the Chinese Communist Party relies on its shadow economy to buoy its regular economy. Shadow banks, which are financial institutions providing services similar to a traditional bank, but outside of standard regulatory frameworks and the view of legitimate institutions, play a crucial role in funding China's property sector, which is what led to China's meteoric rise. But it is now leading to a substantial portion of their activities being exposed to the real estate market volatility. And since they're off the books, they're getting little support from the government. The recent defaults and financial distress among major shadow banks, such as Zhangji Enterprise Group, highlight the risk and scale of the problem in China. When Zhangji failed, it took $38 billion in off-the-books assets with it. So while these shadow economies can assist in sustaining a country through times when it is subjected to sanctions, as we see in Russia, it is not a long-term solution for the average Russian who is not interested in the instability of a mafia-style economy. It is something that Putin is trying to temporarily leverage to keep the war machine running, but there is no way this is a long-term endgame solution for Russia, because the last time they tried this, it helped lead to the collapse of the Soviet Union.